Peter is confused this evening, the evening before Jesus will be crucified, the evening when Jesus is sharing a Last Supper with the disciples. Jesus knows that his crucifixion awaits, and so he has one last chance to share the message he has been proclaiming for the past 2 or 3 years. This time, he will teach the meaning of God's profound love in a most tactile way. He gets up from the table where they are eating supper. He pours water into a basin and begins to wash the disciples' feet. And Peter is confused. Why would Jesus, of all people, be washing their feet? So at the time, foot washing was hospitality. So walking from one home to another in sandals, people's feet would get dusty, and so foot washing was offered to dinner guests as a gesture of hospitality. But the foot washing was actually done by the person themselves on their own feet or by a servant. The host would not be the one washing the guests' feet. And so why is Jesus, the host of the meal, acting as a servant? Well, at one level, the message is clear. We are called to servanthood. We are called to care for one another, to feed, to clothe, to shelter, to comfort, to love. And yet there is more to this message. About 100 years ago, let's say, church life was centered around worship, formation, and pastoral care. And over time, outreach, caring for those in need, became integral to our faith. Of course, we live our faith at St. Paul's. We engage in a variety of outreach ministries, feeding, tutoring, clothing. Yet just as our church life has evolved to incorporate outreach, our church life continues to evolve into a more profound understanding of servanthood. Servanthood is not simply about caring for those in need. It is about us belonging to one another. We have one Creator. We are all children of the same God, which means we are profoundly connected to one another. And so, by design, our individual relationship with God leads us out into the world to live our lives with and for one another. Growing in God's love is loving all that God has created, all who exist in this world together. Servanthood is all about relationship, understanding ourselves as individuals, all integral to the whole. Servanthood is about respecting the dignity of every human being and seeking the fullness of life known in living for one another. Now, some might want to debate me on this thought, but I believe we all have faith stories to share with one another. We become human to each other when we share our stories. Undoubtedly, we will find threads of commonality. Through relationships in which we grow comfortable sharing our faith, we experience Jesus as the loving presence at the center of our lives. Sharing our stories is evangelism. And I know this term can be disconcerting. It can evoke feelings of judgment, of right versus wrong, of saved versus damned. The Episcopal Church is reclaiming the word. Evangelism is not about triumphal conversion. Evangelism is simply sharing the saving grace of the Christian gospel. What is Jesus telling us through the Gospels? He is telling us to live together in community. And he's telling us that in community, life is not about right versus wrong. It is all about loving one another. We need to share our stories, to listen to one another, to have our hearts open to one another. Only together do we live in the truth that is Jesus. When Jesus knelt down and washed the disciples' feet, Jesus, not the servant of the household, but the host of the meal, when he knelt down and washed the disciples' feet, Jesus was telling the world that there is something more to understand about servanthood beyond caring for one another. The fullness of servanthood lies in relationship, in understanding that we all live in this world together, all children of God, all loved by God, all here for one another. Jesus knelt down the night before his death. He tried one more time to explain the implications of God's profound love. He knelt down. Surely we can stand up and live the gospel. Amen.